As Bitcoin extends its current corrective phase, the question is, who are the strong actors to be looking at during this correction, and when is the correction most likely to be ending for Bitcoin and very likely the cryptocurrency market by extension? With that said, welcome back to EllioTrades channel. I'm your host Krown again today with some good old TA. And today is going to be a fun one because we're going to be looking for some of the stronger actors, because it is relevant to be watchful and mindful of them for if and when Bitcoin does turn around. If you are still macro bullish, these ones are the ones that are most likely to act even and perform even better. The old saying goes that my mentor taught me, and that is ancient knowledge nowadays, is this: the strong get stronger and the weak get weaker. So here is essentially the setup. The setup is Bitcoin is correcting, and if Bitcoin is still macro bullish, which we will talk about soon enough, then I would be looking at these three coins to perform very, very well if and when Bitcoin does turn around, which is not happening today. Or very unlikely, I should say. Low probability, we'll say. All right, cool. Also, before we get into it, I should also let you know that I have my own channel. There's a link in the description below, and it is, and we go over a daily analysis on Bitcoin in live stream format in depth. Okay, cool. So let's jump into it right here with Bitcoin first and foremost. And I want to talk about theory for a second so that you can use this for your own good. Hopefully use it for good is the general idea. But basically, when it comes down to it, consolidations, aka accumulation or distributive phases, typically have a symmetrical relationship between the initial cause, the effect, and then the either redistribute or the consolidation or reversal on the other side. So what does this essentially look like? Well, in this case, I'm going to pull out this consolidation over here. This was in the March, April, May highs for about 3 months, whilst Bitcoin was essentially putting in a distributive phase right here. Now, this was a rather long time, and Bitcoin does have a history of playing out about 3-month-long consolidations on its major highs and major lows. And the resolution of this one was obviously rather profound, I would say, 50 to 60% move to the downside. And you'll notice that Bitcoin took about 3 months on the lows over here as well before reversing. So what I've actually done is I've gone ahead and I've measured out the last few consolidations, all of the accumulation and distributive phases that we've gone through, both mini and macro. And you'll likely notice that there is a very interesting relationship between them. So we'll start off right here. This first one that I just referenced, if you actually want to put a number on it, it was about 60 days, in fact. And the resolution, again, massive. What did accumulation take, or how long did accumulation take on the other side? Very comparable, actually, about 63 days. And that led into a pretty phenomenal move. Now, it didn't necessarily make new ultimates from that base, but did put in about a, well, let's actually measure it out right here. Pretty damn good. Yeah, about 80% rally from bottom to top before the next little correction. This one goes through a distributive phase of about 14 days on this little bull trap high and comes down for a nice 20 to 30% washout. Sorry, more like 20% washout right there. And what do you see? You see an accumulation phase over 10 days right here. Very interesting. And well, what do we see in this most recent distributive phase? Well, I would argue that Bitcoin did essentially break down from this as a structure, which took about 28 days on the distributive phase right here. So if we are making a relationship between this, which we could go further back in time as well if you want, but I do not want to, I don't want to outdo my welcome on this video here. So we don't need to do that, but you can definitely backtest yourself, and I encourage you to do that as well. It's better to have, your own information, of course. And if we were to just add about, 28 days or a month, well, we'd be looking at a resolution somewhere around early January, seeing as that initial dump low at about the 4th of December. We could just say that, it'd be more around like the 2nd to 4th of January, somewhere around there. It doesn't need to be exact, of course. We can take this one step further, which with a trend-based fib extension, actually, trend-based time fib extension, I should say. So not only can fib extensions and fib retracements be used for, price targets and consolidation targets, can also be used for timing as well. And what's of interest to me here is that date of the 2nd to 4th of January is incredibly similar to the 0.618 fib time extension right here, which is just about, about a few days later, actually, around January 10th to 11th, as you can see. So I do think that there's good confluence around there. Somewhere within that vicinity, we could actually just, I guess, for future reference, do something like this. And there you go. Perhaps we're looking somewhere right around there. And I will actually take this one off now so you can see, and we can have a little brush. Like that's probably something around what it would look like if Bitcoin is going to end up being bullish. So this is where we're going to talk about macro invalidation. So one of the reasons why I do still stay macro optimistic on Bitcoin, again, not short-term, medium-term. I think at best we're going sideways here between about 43 and 52 or 53, basically $10,000 range, rather large, but that is Bitcoin after all. Anyways, the idea here is that as long as Bitcoin is in a weekly uptrend, I do respect the macro bullishness. Now, again, that does not mean that Bitcoin's moving to the upside anytime soon here. And whilst we do think, or at least I would think, that if Bitcoin is going to put in a major low here, it still does take about, 25 to 30 days, let's say, somewhere around there. Well, it's still that's just the low, it still needs to actually work its way upwards and onwards from there before looking at anything resembling a new all-time high, of course. So likely take some time. And again, if you reference my very long-term analysis video alongside the Bitcoin cycle, which I've done both on this channel and a little bit in more detail on my own channel, I do suspect that this cycle probably goes until middle to end of 2022. So this, still plays very much within the bounds of that. And that is something that I have not had to change just yet. Although, who knows what happens next. Anyways, as long as this condition is met, I do look at this as a possibility. And that would be Bitcoin not taking out the last higher low on the weekly at $42,000. As long as Bitcoin is closing weeklies above there, the uptrend remains intact. We see our corrections down to the green 55. That is okay. And if Bitcoin is going to turn around to be bullish, looking at something similar to this. Excuse the old, what I refer to as LARP lines right here, but something like that would be about right. And that would be another higher low. Okay, cool. So we've spoken about that. Let's get into some quick fire action over here with three of the altcoins that I think are still showing some strength. Again, not versus US dollar necessarily, but versus their Bitcoin pairing, which does imply that they'll very likely be strong if Bitcoin does turn around versus US dollar or shows any strength versus it. First one would be Ethereum Bitcoin. We've spoken about this many times on this channel, and well, we are still seeing continuation of this long-term structure here. We identified the ascending triangle, as did everyone and their mother in cryptocurrency land. We identified the very low volatility period over here. We identified the hidden bullish divergence over here. And we identified the resolution likely coming in last week, of which that does initiate a technical target to about 9.5 million Satoshis, of which I would be looking for a pullback there. Invalidation is still, well, actually, no, we get to move it up now. We get to move it up now to about 7.75 million Satoshis as Bitcoin, or not Bitcoin, but Ethereum Bitcoin has trudged above the macro resolution. And long term, after a bit of a pullback from that 9.5 million Satoshi region, I still do look at this one as likely to put in a nice move somewhere around, at minimum, the 1.272, perhaps over time, the following months from that validation above 9.5 million Satoshi. So very, very clear validation point right there. Probably looking somewhere more around the 0.41 region to 0.188 region. Again, that's months and months down, or months down the road, I'd say. Anyways, upon validation again. Okay, let's move on to the next one, a fun one over here. Luna, Terra Luna, another one that's just continuing with uptrend. This is why I always respect the trend. And this one did not lose its uptrend versus Bitcoin. Again, versus US dollar. I think it actually was doing pretty damn good versus US dollar, so fair enough. But the Bitcoin pair is what we're focusing on right now. And this one just broke its last weekly highs. Not really anything bearish about that, to be fair. What do we see on momentum oscillators? Again, very similar setup over here on weekly volatility compared to Ethereum. Both coming off the lows after major contraction phases. Apologies on that. And that does imply that this move still has some fuel, or in this case, I think a fair bit of fuel. Now, where would the invalidation be on bullishness here? This one a little bit more difficult, but it would be below 9,700 Satoshis. In this case, until that invalidation is hit, I do look for momentum also to continue upwards and onwards. Still like the weekly RSI, playing that hidden bullish divergence. And I do look at the next general target with a pullback in mind somewhere around 17,900 to 16,500 Satoshis. Very likely a pullback around there. And then we'll talk about potential continuation long term if price action validates above, let's call it 18,000 Satoshis. Probably looking at big moves after that towards mid 20,000s, I guess. Anyways, moving on to the next one. This one, Matic, another one that we've spoken about on this channel quite a fair bit. Or actually, maybe on my channel a little bit more, but fair enough. Still a pretty damn good setup here. Again, versus the Bitcoin pairing, versus the US dollar pairing, I imagine it's probably going sideways at best. Although, actually, no, it did have a pretty damn good move last week. Yeah, 2.25, not bad right there. Anyways, where does this one invalidate bullishness? That would be very obviously below 3150 until that condition is met. I do look for this one to trade sideways and up from this region over the next few weeks, with targets in mind somewhere around basically your prior high side structure, which is between about 4,500, perhaps even all the way up to 5,400 Satoshis. At that point, I would be looking for a pullback from those regions and very likely consolidate a little bit lower. And then we'll come back to it after that, of course. And then if you do see validation above about, what is it, 50, sorry, it's more like 5,100 would be the target there. Apologies on that. I goofed that one up. Yeah, about 5,100 would be the upside of those targets. I would be looking for a pullback from 5,100 to readjust that statement, and then a validation perhaps later after a pullback and consolidation above 5,100 on especially a weekly closure. Even a daily probably gets it as well. At that point, I would be looking for big moves up towards, 7,000, 8,000 Satoshis in the following months. Now, with that in mind, short term, this one is a little more likely to pull back from here, actually. Why do I say that? We got a little bit of bearish divergence and, coming back down to 3,350, not a problem. Again, invalidation specifically below, let's call it 3,000 or 3,100 Satoshis in this case. As long as you're above there, this looks like a nice accumulation range to me. And, well, looking for this one to trudge upwards and onwards. This one's probably the least mature that we're looked at out of the three, that being Ethereum Bitcoin, Luna Bitcoin, and now Matic. But I still do actually like this one. And again, be aware of where the invalidations are, be aware of where the validations are, and I think that's a good place to leave off this video. We also do, of course, have a Bybit link in the link in the description below. I always feel compelled to let you know that, hey, really, I want to warn people against leverage trading. If you're not already a successful trader, it's very unwise to start with, with this. What you should do if you want to learn is to just start a paper account or a testnet account, which you can typically get for free on just about any major exchange. And from there, you can get some experience without risking finances, build up some strategies, reference some people online or whatever, or come up with your own, back test them, go through the whole rigmarole, of which I have plenty of videos on my own channel. And from there, once you start having success in your own way that you like and you're confident with, then perhaps only then, if it's even relevant to you, then perhaps consider putting in a small amount and then build up slowly. But for the people who already have the skills and the success, yes, the Bybit link does reduce your trading fees, and it also guarantees you like some sort of a deposit bonus. So free money, I suppose, in that sense. And I think that's a great place to leave this one off. Be signing off now. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.